They called him an outlaw, a thief, a troublemaker hiding in the forest. But the truth about Robin Hood was far more dangerous than anyone knew. Because one cold morning, deep at the edge of Sherwood Forest, a poor girl crossed paths with him, and her life would never be the same. Her name was Eleanor. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't important. She didn't even believe anyone noticed her at all. Every day, she walked the same muddy path, carrying herbs she sold for a few pennies, praying the sheriff's men wouldn't stop her. They usually did. And when they did, they took more than they should. That morning was different. As Eleanor stepped into the forest, she heard boots behind her. Rough voices. Laughter that made her stomach turn. She knew what was coming. Then, an arrow struck the dirt between the soldier's feet. A man stepped out from the trees, hood pulled low, bow steady in his hands. He didn't look rich. He didn't look royal. He looked like a man who belonged to the woods. The soldiers ran. The stranger turned to Eleanor and placed silver coins in her shaking hands. Enough to feed her family for weeks. She stared at him and whispered, "Why would you help someone like me?" The man smiled. "Because someone should." She never asked his name. She never asked where he came from. She had no idea she was standing in front of the most wanted man in England. And she certainly didn't know something even more shocking. That the outlaw who saved her was a prince hiding from his own crown? And before this story ends, he will have to choose between the throne he was born to and the people he was willing to die for. Eleanor lived in a cottage that most people pretended didn't exist. It sat crooked at the edge of Sherwood Forest, where the road turned to mud and hope ran thin. The roof leaked when it rained. The door never closed right. But it was home. Inside, her grandmother lay wrapped in thin blankets, coughing softly. Eleanor moved quietly, careful not to wake her. She warmed water, crushed herbs, and whispered a small prayer she'd learned as a child. "Just let today be kind," she said. But days were rarely kind to girls like Eleanor. By sunrise, she was on the road again. A basket on her arm. Herbs, mended cloth, little things she hoped to sell in the village. Not enough to make her rich, just enough to survive. As she walked, she kept her head down. Because everyone knew what happened to poor people who stood too tall. The sheriff's men arrived before noon. They always did. 4 of them, horses snorting, boots heavy with confidence. They didn't ask questions. They never needed to. "Tax," one of them said, holding out his hand. Eleanor swallowed. "I already paid last week." The man smiled, slow and cruel. "Then consider this a reminder." They took her coins. Then her bread. One of them reached for her basket. "That's for medicine," she said, her voice shaking. "Please." The man laughed. And that was when the forest went quiet. Too quiet. A sharp thunk broke the air. An arrow buried itself in the ground between the horses. Another followed. Then another. The men shouted. Horses reared. And from the trees stepped a hooded figure. He moved like he belonged there. Like the forest itself had sent him. "Leave," the man said calmly. The soldiers hesitated. Then one whispered a name they were afraid to say out loud. "Robin Hood." They didn't argue. They didn't fight. They ran. Eleanor stood frozen, heart pounding, as the stranger turned toward her. Up close, he didn't look dangerous. His clothes were worn. His boots muddy. His face calm, but tired, like someone who carried more weight than he showed. "You're safe now," he said. He placed silver coins into her hand. Real silver. Her eyes widened. "This is too much." "Then spend it slowly," he replied. She looked up at him. "Why would you help me?" The man paused, just for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "Because the law forgot you." And with that, he disappeared back into the trees. Eleanor didn't know his name. She didn't know she would see him again. And she had no idea that this small act of kindness had just set something much bigger in motion. Because in Sherwood Forest, nothing stayed secret for long. Eleanor didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the arrows strike the ground. She heard the fear in the soldiers' voices when they spoke his name, and she felt the weight of the silver coins still hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her cottage. Robin Hood. The name felt unreal, like something from a song or a story told by firelight. Not something that stepped out of the trees and looked her straight in the eye. She rose before dawn and checked on her grandmother. The old woman slept more peacefully than she had in weeks. Eleanor brewed the herbs she had protected and gave her a careful sip. For the first time in a long while, there was hope in the room. Later that morning, Eleanor walked to the village, not afraid this time, but alert. She bought bread. Real bread. Thick and warm. She paid honestly and still had coins left over. People noticed. The baker raised an eyebrow. "Good day for business?" Eleanor smiled, unsure what to say. "Something like that." Whispers followed her as she walked away. By afternoon, the sheriff's men rode through the village again. Louder this time. Angry. They questioned everyone. Doors closed. Windows shut. Eleanor slipped away before they could see her. That night, she left a small bundle at the edge of the forest. Bread. Cheese. A simple thank you tied with string. She didn't know why she did it. She just felt she should. When she returned the next morning, the bundle was gone. In its place lay a single white feather. Days passed. Then weeks. And strange things began to happen. Firewood appeared stacked neatly beside her cottage, though Eleanor never heard anyone chopping. Fresh herbs replaced the ones she gathered. Once, she found a small pouch of grain hanging on her door. No note. No name. Just quiet kindness. Eleanor told herself it was coincidence. But deep down, she knew better. She began to walk the forest paths more often. Sometimes she spoke out loud, unsure if anyone listened. "I hope you're safe," she said once, feeling foolish. The trees did not answer. But she felt less alone. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the forest gold, Eleanor heard footsteps behind her. She turned fast. He stood a few steps away, hood up, hands open to show he meant no harm. "You walk carefully for someone who knows the forest well," he said. She laughed softly. "I learned quickly." They stood there, unsure what came next. "Did you leave the bread?" he asked. "Yes. Thank you." They sat on a fallen log. Birds called overhead. The world felt distant, like it had stepped aside just for them. "You don't look like a thief," Eleanor said. He smiled. "Neither do most people." "What should I call you?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Robin is fine." She nodded. "Then I'm Eleanor." From that day on, they met often. Sometimes they talked for minutes. Sometimes for hours. Robin listened more than he spoke. He asked about her grandmother. About the village. About what people feared, and what they hoped for. "They want fairness," Eleanor said once. "Not charity. Just a chance." Robin stared into the trees. "And if the law won't give it? Then the law is broken," she replied. He smiled like someone who had waited a long time to hear those words. Robin never spoke of himself. Not really. He said he lived in the forest. That he had friends. That he believed wealth should serve people, not rule them. Once, Eleanor asked, "Have you ever been to a castle?" Robin paused. "Yes." Her eyes widened. "What was it like?" "Cold," he said after a moment. "Even with fires burning." She didn't understand then. Trouble returned with the rain. The sheriff announced new taxes. Harsher ones. Soldiers tore through cottages, searching for signs of the outlaw. One night, Eleanor heard shouting outside. She opened the door to find a soldier standing too close. "Where did you get the silver?" he demanded. "I sold herbs," she said. He laughed. "Try again." Before he could step inside, an arrow struck the wall beside his head. Robin stepped from the shadows. "You've taken enough," he said. More soldiers rushed forward. Robin whistled. The forest came alive. Men appeared from nowhere, strong, fast, fearless. The soldiers were disarmed in moments. Eleanor stared. "Who are they?" she whispered. "My friends," Robin said simply. They vanished as quickly as they had come. But the damage was done. The sheriff knew now. And he would not forget. That night, Robin walked Eleanor home. "You shouldn't come here anymore," she said quietly. "I won't stop," he replied. "Then you'll get caught." He stopped walking. "And if I do?" She looked at him, really looked at him. "I'd lose the one person who ever stood up for me." His face softened. "You don't need protecting," he said. "You need justice." "And who will give us that?" she asked. Robin didn't answer. Days later, Eleanor's cottage burned. She returned from the village to find smoke rising into the sky. Neighbors stood helplessly as flames consumed the only home she had ever known. Her grandmother was gone. Taken earlier by friends, safe, but shaken. Eleanor fell to her knees in the mud. The sheriff stood nearby, watching. "This is what happens when you deal with outlaws," he said. That night, rain poured as Eleanor fled into the forest with nothing but a cloak and grief. She slipped, fell, cut her leg, and cried for the first time since childhood. Robin found her before dawn. He lifted her gently, carried her through the trees, never slowing. "You're not alone," he whispered. She believed him. They reached a hidden camp deep in the forest. Firelight. Tents. Quiet voices. Men and women nodded respectfully as Robin passed. Eleanor rested, bandaged and warm. For the first time, she felt safe. As she drifted to sleep, she heard someone call Robin by another name. "My lord." Her eyes fluttered open, but the fire had dimmed, and the forest kept its secrets. For now. Eleanor woke to birdsong and the smell of wood smoke. For a moment, she forgot everything. The fire, the soldiers, the loss of her cottage. Then memory rushed back, heavy and sharp. She sat up. She was not in the forest anymore. Not really. Tents surrounded her, neatly arranged. A fire burned low in the center of the clearing. Men and women moved quietly, sharing food, sharpening arrows, laughing softly. It didn't feel like a camp of criminals. It felt like a village. Robin sat nearby, mending a strap on his bow. "You're awake," he said, relief clear in his voice. "Where am I?" Eleanor asked. "Safe," he replied. "As long as you need." She hesitated. "Last night, someone called you my lord." The sounds of the camp seemed to fade. Robin's hands stopped moving. "You were half asleep," he said carefully. "You might have misheard." Maybe she had. But something in his eyes had changed. The days that followed felt strange, like living in a dream. Eleanor helped where she could, cooking, mending, listening. The merry men treated her as an equal. No one spoke down to her. No one asked where she came from or what she owed. Little John brought her water each morning. Friar Tuck told jokes while stirring stew. Will Scarlet played songs that made the forest feel alive. And Robin watched over everything without ever raising his voice. People listened when he spoke. They waited for his nod before acting. One afternoon, Eleanor finally asked, "Why do they follow you?" Robin thought for a moment. "Because I listen to them." She smiled. "That's not all." He smiled back, but didn't answer. That evening, they walked along a narrow stream as the sun dipped low. "You could leave," Robin said suddenly. "I can find you a safe village. Far from here." Eleanor stopped. "Do you want me to leave?" "No," he said quickly. Then slower. "I don't know." She studied him. "You're afraid of something." "Yes." "Me?" she asked gently. He met her eyes. "What would you think if you knew everything?" Her heart beat faster. "Then tell me." Robin looked away. "Not yet." Trouble crept closer every day. Scouts returned with grim news. More soldiers. New orders from the sheriff. A reward doubled for Robin Hood, dead or alive. One night, Eleanor overheard raised voices near the fire. "This can't go on," Little John said. "The people are suffering. And they will suffer more if we rush," Robin replied. A hooded messenger arrived before dawn. He carried a royal seal. Eleanor watched from the shadows as Robin read the message. His face hardened. "What is it?" she asked later. "Change," he said quietly. The sheriff struck back with cruelty. Villages were fined. Fields burned. Children went hungry. The people began to whisper, not just of Robin Hood, but of a missing prince. A royal heir who vanished years ago. A man who could challenge the sheriff's power if he returned. Eleanor heard the stories and laughed softly one night. "Imagine that," she said. "A prince living like an outlaw." Robin said nothing. The breaking point came at dawn. Soldiers surrounded the forest. Not just the sheriff's men. Royal guards. Banners flew. Horns sounded. The merry men prepared to fight, but Robin raised his hand. "No blood today," he said. Eleanor grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done long ago." He turned to her. "If I step forward, things will change," he said. "You might hate me." She shook her head. "I could never hate you." He smiled sadly. "You don't know that." They marched into the clearing. Robin walked alone. The sheriff laughed when he saw him. "Still playing hero?" Robin reached up and slowly pulled back his hood. Then he removed the ring from his finger. Gold. Heavy. Marked with a lion. Silence fell. "I am Robert of Locksley," he said clearly. "By blood and law, prince of this land." The royal guards dropped to one knee. The sheriff turned pale. Eleanor felt the ground sway beneath her feet. A prince. Her Robin. The man who chopped wood, shared bread, laughed by firelight. All this time. Her chest tightened. He had let her believe he was just like her. And he was not. The sheriff was arrested. Chains clanked. Orders were reversed. The people cheered. But Eleanor stepped back. Robin searched the crowd for her. Found her. Their eyes met. And in her gaze, he saw something he feared more than swords. Distance. Later, as the camp celebrated, Eleanor packed what little she had. Robin found her at the edge of the forest. "You're leaving," he said. She nodded. "I don't belong in your world." "You belong wherever you choose," he said. She laughed softly, but there was pain in it. "Easy to say when you have a crown waiting." He stepped closer. "I never wanted it." "You didn't trust me enough to tell me," she said. "I wanted you to see me first," he replied. "Not the title." She looked at him then, not as a prince, not as an outlaw, but as a man who had carried her through the rain. "I did see you," she said quietly. "That's what hurts." She turned and walked away. Robin did not stop her. Because some truths, once revealed, cannot be undone. And some choices must be made alone. The forest felt different after the truth came out. It was still green. Still alive with birds and wind and moving shadows. But something had shifted, like a song played in a new key. Robin, Prince Robert now, stood alone at the center of it all. The merry men treated him the same, yet not the same. They bowed when he passed. They waited for orders instead of jokes. The fire burned brighter, the camp more organized, more careful. More royal. Robin hated it. By noon, messengers arrived from the city. Then nobles. Then guards in polished armor that didn't belong among the trees. They bowed low. "My prince," they said. "The people wait." Robin nodded, but his eyes searched the forest paths. Eleanor was gone. Eleanor walked until her legs burned. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she could not stay. Every memory hurt now. The way he laughed. The way he listened. The way he carried her through the rain like she mattered more than the world. Was it all a lie? No, she told herself. It was real. And that was the worst part. By nightfall, she reached a small village far from Sherwood. The people were kind but cautious. She traded work for a place to sleep and helped tend a sick child. It felt familiar, simple, safe. But every night she dreamed of the forest. Back in Sherwood, the sheriff stood in chains. The crowd gathered as Prince Robert spoke. No more unfair taxes, he declared. No more punishment for hunger. No more law without mercy. The people cheered. But Robin's voice shook. Because every word pushed him farther from the man Eleanor had known. Days later, Robin rode toward the castle he had avoided his whole life. Stone walls rose high. Flags snapped in the wind. The throne room felt colder than he remembered. His advisors spoke of borders, alliances, gold. Stability, they said. Order. Robin nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. That night, he stood on the balcony and stared toward the forest. I chose this, he told himself. But choosing did not make it easier. Eleanor heard the news weeks later. The sheriff imprisoned. The poor forgiven. The prince praised. Some called him a hero. Others called him a miracle. Eleanor said nothing. She worked. She helped. She lived. But something inside her stayed unfinished. Winter came early. Snow dusted the land. One evening, a traveler arrived at the village. He wore a simple cloak, muddy boots. And when Eleanor looked up, her breath caught. Robin stood there. Not as a prince. Just a man. I found you, he said softly. Her hands shook. You shouldn't be here. I couldn't stay away. They walked to the edge of the village where the lantern light faded. I'm ruling, he said. I'm trying to do it right. She nodded. I hear you are. But every choice feels empty without you. He continued. I never lied about who I was in here. He touched his chest. She looked away. You let me believe we were equal. We were, he said firmly. We still are. She laughed bitterly. You will wear a crown. And you wear courage, he replied. Which is rarer? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Eleanor spoke. What do you want from me? I want you beside me, he said. Not as something you're not. As who you are. She searched his face for pride. Found none. Only hope. The decision took time. Weeks. Months. Eleanor visited the city quietly. She saw the changes. The food given freely. The laws rewritten. The guards kinder. She saw Robin listening to the poor the same way he once listened to her. Slowly, her anger softened. Spring returned. Flowers bloomed even among stone. On a clear morning, Eleanor stood in the castle courtyard. Robin approached, no crown on his head. I will not force you, he said. Choose freely. She took a breath. I don't want to be saved, she said. I know. I don't want to be raised above others. I wouldn't let that happen. She smiled then, small, real. Then I will walk beside you, she said. But if you forget who you were, I will leave. Robin bowed his head. That is the promise I need. The wedding was simple. No gold thrones. No towering crowns. Just people. Music. Sunlight. And when the people looked at their prince, they saw not power, but kindness. And when they looked at Eleanor, they saw not a poor girl, but strength. Years later, children would ask how Robin Hood became king, and elders would smile and say, he learned it from a girl who had nothing, and taught him everything. The years that followed were not easy. That surprised many people. They thought once Robin Hood became king, the story was over. That justice would fall neatly into place. That pain would vanish like mist in the morning sun. But real change never comes quietly. And Robin knew that better than anyone. He did not rule from a golden chair every day. He walked the streets. He listened. He argued. He learned. And Eleanor walked beside him, not behind, not above, but beside. She kept her promise. The first winter tested them. Food ran low after poor harvests. Old nobles complained. Some wanted the old taxes back. Others whispered that a girl with no title had no place near a throne. Eleanor heard the whispers. She felt them like cold wind against her back. One night, she stood at the castle window, watching snow fall over the city. "Do you regret it?" Robin asked softly. She turned to him. "Do you?" He shook his head. "Never." "Then neither do I," she said. But the doubt did not disappear. It waited. The true test came the following spring. A group of powerful lords gathered in secret. They believed Robin was weak, too kind, too focused on the poor. They planned to remove him quietly. No battle, no rebellion, just a crown taken in the dark. The plan failed, not because of spies or soldiers, but because a baker spoke up. Then a farmer. Then a widow. People Robin had once fed. People Eleanor had once stood among. They warned the king. Not with fear, but loyalty. That night, Robin sat alone in the old forest where it had all begun. Eleanor joined him. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought power would protect the people." She sat beside him on the fallen log. "Power never protects," she said. "People do." He smiled sadly. "You always know the truth before I do." She nudged him. "That's because I lived without protection longer." Robin addressed the lords the next day. He did not threaten them. He did not punish them. He spoke plainly. "You may take my crown," he said, "but you will never take the trust of the people. And without that, no throne stands." Some lords left that room humbled. Others left angry. But none returned. Years passed. Children grew up hearing stories of Robin Hood, not as an outlaw, not as a prince, but as a king who listened. And Eleanor? She never wore a crown. She wore simple dresses, walked among the people, opened shelters, helped rebuild villages burned long ago by cruelty. Once, a noblewoman asked her why she refused jewels and titles. Eleanor smiled. "Because I remember what it feels like to be invisible." One summer evening, long after the world had settled, Robin and Eleanor returned to Sherwood Forest. The trees stood tall. The paths remembered their footsteps. They stopped where they had first met. "You saved me here," Eleanor said softly. Robin shook his head. "You saved me." She looked at him. "From what?" "From becoming the kind of ruler who forgets," he said. They sat in silence as fireflies lit the dusk. When age finally slowed Robin's steps, he asked Eleanor one question. "Do you think they'll remember me kindly?" She laughed gently. "They'll remember you honestly. And that's better." After he was gone, the people mourned, but not with fear. They mourned with gratitude. And when they asked Eleanor how such a man had ruled so well, she told them the truth. "He learned how to be a king long before he wore a crown," she said. "He learned it by helping a poor girl when no one was watching." And so the story lived on. Not as a tale of riches, not as a tale of royalty, but as a reminder whispered through generations. That true nobility is not born. It is chosen. That kindness is not weakness. It is courage. And that sometimes the greatest rulers are shaped not by power, but by the people they choose to see.